are back again. This is the live at the Center for Performing Arts at Rhinebeck, where nothing is real, everything is Shakespeare. And this is our April show. I'm going to do a little chasseur. When thou apreleva de shoresuta, the droch march persit to the ruta. You don't need to know what that means, but it is our 12th annual Sam Scripps Shakespeare Festival. And we have with us here today the director of the show that's going to kick off the festival on our Globe stage, Michael Juswack, who is directing The Lion in Winter. And sitting next to Michael is Joe Ariel, who is playing Henry of Anjou, Henry II, and Kit Colburn, who is playing Eleanor of Aquitaine, married to Henry II. To my right is John Adair, who is in the second offering of this year's Shakespeare Fest, King Lear. He is playing the title character, King Lear. And next to John is Tyler Sparks, who's playing the evil Edmund. Okay, so guys, here we are. This is our 12th annual Shakespeare Fest, graciously supported by Artsmith Hudson and County Executive Marcus Molinaro. We do have a Globe stage, which we have put up every year. You've been on that how many times?
Quite a few.
4 or 5?
At least.
This is your second? Because you were on it last year in Shrew. You've been on it how many times?
3.
You've been on it?
Twice.
So this is your third time?
It is.
And it's your first time?
First time.
And we were always on the Globe. In
Yes.
Othello, and, well, R&J we didn't do on the Globe.
That's true.
We did that as a bare stage.
That's true. You're
He
right.
was Friar Lawrence in R&J, and he was the evil Iago in Othello. And who have you been? Now, I know you were Prospero,
It was Prospero, I was,
Oberon,
yeah,
Duncan,
Cardinal Wolsey.
Wolsey, Duncan.
Yeah.
Who else? Oh, Old Aegean in
Yeah.
Comedy of Errors.
Yep.
And now you're doing Lear. So this is your 6th?
I guess the sixth.
Six. So you were like from the very beginning. I think Tempest was the second one we did.
Pretty early on.
Yeah. All right, so Lion in Winter kicks off the festival on Friday, April the 6th. It runs to the 15th. And Friday and Saturday shows are at 8 p.m. Sunday matinees 3 p.m. Tickets are $23. You know what to do. 876-3080. Wednesday through Friday between the hours of 1 and 5. And Saturday 1 to 5 as well. And you can always go online. You wake up in the middle of the night. I have to see a Shakespearean play. It's 2 a.m. Center for Performing Arts.org. So, Michael, directing. You've directed a lot.
Yeah, a good amount, yeah.
Yeah, so this is not like any particular challenges in this?
Actually, we had a little challenge in casting in that we didn't get a lot of young men. There were 3 young men, 4 actually, young men in it. And we had about 6 guys actually audition.
So you took the best 4 of the 6?
That's pretty much what we did.
Dads! What is it now? Young men aren't coming out anymore.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with that.
Lots of, and it used to be the other way around, and now we can't get young men. Can't find them. Old men we can find. Young men we can't find.
I think a lot of them were waiting for Lear,
Yeah.
so that's why I don't think we got as many for them.
Do you think that people knew that the roles of Richard, Geoffrey, John, and Philip were like really meaty roles, or were they not aware of that?
I don't think they were aware of it. Unless you've seen the play or the movie, I don't think most people were aware of that. I thought they all thought they were pretty much walk-on roles.
Yeah.
And frankly, the roles are better in the play than they are in the movie
Yeah.
too. So even
They're
if you-
longer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and meatier. They're
And
just-
spicier.
Yeah.
There's a lot to be said and done. Any challenges for you playing Henry II here?
Well, yeah, I think there's a lot of challenges for all the characters in this play, and not least of them Henry, in that he's a complicated character. He's I've had the good fortune to play, as you said, one of literature's great bad guys in Iago.
Right.
Several years ago, I played Arthur in Camelot,
Right.
who's one of literature's great good guys.
Right.
You can't peg Henry as either, really.
He's in the middle.
He's in the middle. He does some things that even he regrets, and that would objectively be considered inappropriate, wrong. He makes some bad moral choices here and there, and certainly has in his past. But he also has a legitimate desire for this family to function better, and he wants all 3 of his kids to play a role in that.
And I'm glad you used the word function because as a theme for this year's offerings of the center stage, it's dysfunctional families, hence King Lear, hence Lion in Winter, Next to Normal, God of Carnage, August Osage County. These are not the happiest families in the world. Kit, so you're playing Eleanor of Aquitaine, who is married to King Henry, and he's put you away for many years, and he's decided to bring you out to celebrate Christmas. Do you want to tell people who don't know what the basic story is? What's going on in this show?
Well, I'm a bit of a history nerd, so I love this sort of thing, actual
Really?
historic characters. And Eleanor is a very strong-minded person. She was really ahead of her time. She was quite the feminist. She led armies into battle against him in a couple of cases. And her motivations are really interesting to sort of delve into. She really loves Henry. They had a very interesting relationship for many years, and it's her second marriage, and she had produced several children for her previous husband, Louis of France, but no male heirs. So when Henry came along, well, she had him annulled pretty quickly and moved on. And so the time of the play is at Christmas. I've been in jail for 10 years thanks to this guy. And because I was waging war against him, he's brought me out because it's time to determine who is going to take the throne after Henry. And he wants everyone involved in that process. And so here we all are, including the son of my previous husband and our 3 sons. And the sparks fly.
For those of you who you do a little catch up, so Henry is the first head of the Angevin Empire. His original title, he's Count of Anjou. He's also suzerain of Ireland, Scotland, Wales. He's King of England. He's also Duke of Normandy and Duke of Poitiers. She is, in her own right, the overlord of Maine, Touraine, and Aquitaine. So together, they actually hold more territory than the King of France. And his successors will then expand the Angevin Empire to include Malta, parts of Sicily, Crete, Cyprus, the Levant. So by the time the empire is expanded, it's quite large. And his problem is he doesn't know to whom to leave the throne, and there is no law of primogeniture, meaning firstborn. There is no law. So that brings us to this guy, who's King of England, but in pre-Roman England, according to Shakespeare, and he has 3 daughters, whereas he has 3 sons, and he decides in his lifetime to divvy up the kingdom. So tell us what happens.
Well, he bases his decision on how to divvy it up from the responses of his daughters when he demands that they tell him how much they love him. And 2 of them play the game and tell them they love him a lot. So he gives each of them a third of his kingdom, and the other daughter decides to tell the truth in her way and not make a show of it, just to count on her, her essential feelings and dignity, and what I assume that she hopes is obvious to the king, that she loves him. But this doesn't work well with Lear. He's been described as a man who's never heard the word no, and I think he flips out.
Right.
He loses his temper, to put it mildly, and he banishes that daughter. And things just go from that to worse.
Bad to worse.
Bad to worse. And then we enter into a thing. I was thinking the other day that Lear somehow is about, you get the feeling that Shakespeare said, well, I'm going to sit down and say what I really think about what this world can be. Which is not a pretty picture.
No, it's pretty dark.
And I think he discovered that the concept of madness is very useful to him in that way. Because mad people can say things that are extremely intelligent and profound, and because they're mad, they get away with it.
Right.
And when you think about it, and it's fool whose job it is to tell the truth, but to tell it Like Emily Dickinson said with poetry, poetry tells the truth but tells it slant. Well, the fool tells his truth slant, and the madman tells his truth slant. And then we have people in disguise for one reason or another. And they're in disguise so that they can continue to operate in the way that is truthful to them. So it's kind of a disquisition on how, if you're going to tell the truth, you have to hide it.
You have to be very careful. Now, your character, you're the bastard son of the Duke of Gloucester. And you're one of the bad guys in Shakespeare. Very similar to Iago, in that you do an awful lot of saying one thing to somebody's face, and then behind their back you're stabbing them. So this is totally different from... Now, which one were you last year?
Lucentio.
Lucentio. So totally different.
Yeah.
So what are you finding any challenges? Anything...
I think the hard part with Edmund is that Shakespeare goes through all the trouble of giving him reasons to be evil. Like, he doesn't just say, here's our evil guy, he's going to do a lot of bad things, you can hate him the whole time. You know, he's the bastard son, he's denied rights that he thinks he should have a right to, and so he goes through all of this explanation, and Edmund gets so many times where he gets to just talk to the audience and bring them in on his own thought process. So I guess the hard part is to find the dark part of him that is willing to do whatever it takes and do a lot of terrible things, but also to find that connection with the audience of, I'm the bastard, I'm left out.
And it's a lot of fun, though, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
It's a lot of fun. And Shakespeare's villains are really great because Shakespeare, I maintain, and we've talked about this, there's really no subtext in Shakespeare. He says what he means what he says. I'll smile and murder while I smile, Richard III says. And that's what he does. And don't you have a line in Othello about why you do what you do? Iago at one point addresses the audience.
Yeah, he has a lot of dialogue directly to the audience where he's, in some ways, it's a much less subtle bad guy because he brings the audience right into his evil. And after he tricks one of the players, he walks right out to the audience and says something like, you know, who are you to say it's evil?
Right.
Right? And what they're trying to do, that connection that you're talking about, is all of us have these inclinations. And, you know, the difference between us, I guess, is our ability to moderate them, to control them. And he leaves open for you, Shakespeare, like all great playwrights, and you'll see that plenty in Lion, I think, he wants you to speculate as to why. He may give you hints on the depth of the bad guy's motives, but you get to connect anywhere you want. And, you know, we've got these family relationships, hopefully, are a little more dysfunctional than many of the people in the audience are going to really have experience with, but it's not going to be foreign to them. There'll be some pain involved, I think, because our boys, as it turns out, we may have taken the best 4 of the 6, but they're pretty darn good.
Well,
and I think they're going to make that.
now is this your first play at the Center, kid?
No, I did Sweeney Todd a couple years ago
Oh, you were in Sweeney.
in the ensemble.
You were in the ensemble.
Yeah.
Okay, but Joe, you've been in lots of things. You've been in lots of things. So have you. You're like on number 3?
Number
or
2.
Number 2? All right. So we're on a different kind of a stage now, the Globe stage. We've really, for those of you who don't know, it's ours is pretty much a faithful recreation of the Globe that is currently in London. It is a drawdown of an Elizabethan inn. It's a big open space with a big set of double doors upstage, a door left, a door right, a balcony above you, and that's it. Are you bringing out a lot of furniture? You got a lot of furniture?
No, don't have a lot of furniture. We've got about really 4 chairs and a table, and
That's it.
That's it.
Good. So you're playing the Globe.
We're playing, yes, we're using every piece of stage that we can.
Good.
We have several scenes up in the heavens,
Good.
and we're using all the doors. We have the columns where
You have columns
we're,
up.
we're going to have seating around that.
Cool.
So the entire thing is being utilized.
As actors, you found any problems with the Globe? Anything make you do anything differently?
No.
I find it lovely. It makes you present.
Yes, and of course we've been rehearsing down here with the smaller, tighter space, but the freedom to move comfortably is really great.
But although it does force you to, you are on your own.
You're unprotected.
You're unprotected,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
that is an early adjustment in the rehearsal process
Yeah.
because there are no tricks to play in terms of how to
Right.
occupy
Can't
yourself
Yeah.
during
Now,
off time.
we're tweaking the globe quite a bit when we do Lear. Now, you're setting it in the 12th century, right?
Yes,
You're being
yes.
true.
Right.
You're in about, what, the year 1181?
83.
1183. We've taken Lear and we've jumped it into the year 2018. And we're not playing Lear necessarily as a monarch, but we're playing him.
Corporate magnate.
He's the CEO of a mega corporation that is global. So maybe his power is even more than that of a monarch. But you're in modern dress, and we've got a lot of stuff on the stage. Boardroom tables, chairs, shopping carts. We're trying to recreate New York City. So we've got slum scenes, we have alley scenes, boardroom scenes, war room scenes. You're pretty much always inside, right? You never go out very much, do you?
Very rarely.
Very rarely. You're always in the war room or the boardroom.
Scheming.
And we've got you in a wheelchair.
Yes,
for the play.
I am in a wheelchair.
He is in a wheelchair. We're playing Edmund as though there's something he's had. What? You decided he was born with this condition?
He's born
Yeah.
paralyzed, and
Born paralyzed.
his father didn't want to fork it over for the prosthetics, so here he is.
He didn't want to fork over for the prosthetic.
See, you
Oh
did
my
find something.
God.
It's a good actor there.
All right, so 4 big plays in 4 years, 1601 to about 1605. Hamlet, Macbeth, Othello, King Lear. So you said something about truth-telling, and I find those 4 plays to be rather similar. Rather similar. Maybe Hamlet less, but certainly Othello is a lot of lying and no lying and truth-telling and hiding. Lear, there's a lot of truth-telling, no truth-telling. Certainly in Macbeth, it is fraught with a lot of misrepresentation, a lot of dissembling. So compared to all the other people you've played, so you've played Prospero, Oberon, Duncan, Wolsey, Old Aegean. Is anybody you've played like this character? Or any of those guys similar?
It's more important to me in the ways they're not like him.
Okay.
In a sense, this play is more than a play. It kind of bursts its bounds, you know, and you find yourself, you know, doing scenes, and you say afterwards, "My God, it's a privilege to be able to do this and to say this and to show this." Because a lot of it, you know, people don't talk about how bad it can be, and frequently is. And it's like, you know, in Lear you do. There are scenes in Lear that should just sear you with its dark truth. And that I find that Shakespeare went farther in this play than he has in the others. And there's a theory that when he wrote this, he was going through a kind of nervous breakdown or coming out of one. And so that pain was foremost in his mind, in his line about how this world was a rack, a torture rack. You know, that was very much, I think, in his mind, and that was the kind of thing he wanted to get across. And I think he just said, let's just say it. Let's just say it.
We did the play Equivocation a couple of years ago,
Right.
Michael and I, and it deals with Shakespeare in the era 1601, 1605, trying to come to grips with James's monarchy and having to jump through hoops and tell some lies in his plays and bolster the crown. And we were rehearsing Lear in the beginning of the play.
Yes.
And there's a scene where the actors it's the scene on the heath.
Right.
And they just simply did not know
Right.
what to do.
Right. They were completely confused.
Completely confused.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he had to come out and explain it.
He had to come out and explain it. And then he dropped Lear in the middle of it and decided to go off and write Macbeth.
Right. That's
Didn't know
correct.
that.
According to the play Equivocation.
Right.
So we
But
don't
it
know
was
how
also-
it really happened.
He was also comparing Macbeth to King James.
To James, yeah,
Right.
right. So what things have you done, Kit? Where have you been other than Sweeney Todd on our stage?
All over the Hudson Valley, Monroe, down in Orange County, been in 4 or 5 things there and directed there, and Sherman, Connecticut, I've done a few things there, going back there this summer to do Other Desert Cities, which is a role I've done before. and county players, and just all around before that, ancient history.
Did you study theater?
I did. I have a
Theater.
bachelor's in theater
From where?
Florida State.
Ah, were you in the game for real at one point?
I was. I did some commercials and a couple of under fives on soaps and a couple of movies. So.
Under fives. Will you explain to the people what an
5
under
lines
five
or
is?
less on a soap opera. Under 5. So I
The
was,
nurse who appears and says something like,
Yes.
"Shall I meet you in the operating theater, doctor?" And then she's gone.
Exactly. Yeah, I was the secretary who came running in after someone who barged into a board meeting. I'm sorry, I couldn't stop it. So, it was fun.
So how does it feel to be playing this role?
Oh my goodness.
Is it exhausting?
It's delicious.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a role that it's a bucket list. We've used that word. It's a bucket list role. I ever since I saw the movie when I was 10, I thought that is just amazing, and it's just stuck in my mind because I have this again. I'm a history nerd, and my father was a historian, and it's in the DNA. And I love to think about how people in that time and place really felt, and what really motivated them, what really made them tick and made them do the horrible things in some cases that they do. So this is such a great opportunity, and the more I sit with the script and read it, the more excited I get, and the more I realize
I saw this when it opened on Broadway, and it was Rosemary Harris and Robert Preston.
she won a Tony for it, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
and Chris Walken.
Chris Walken was
Philippa Friend.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was cool because in that year, I believe it was 66, in 65, I saw Chris Walken do Achilles in Iphigenia Nollis at the Circle and Square, and then a couple of months later, there he was as Philippa Friend. Very impressive. So what things have you done here and other places? Where have you been?
Last year I did Taming of the Shrew here. That was my first here, and other than that, I was in New York City until I had some leg issues that made walking around New York City.
God, what is it with your legs? He just broke his leg here, by the way. So the reason he's in a wheelchair in King Lear is not because it's a conceit that the director thought of. We're justifying it because he really can't be walking around. So, did you study theater?
I studied English and took a bunch of theater classes, but I don't have a degree.
Where did you go to school?
Binghamton.
But you spent a lot of time in politics.
I spent a little time in politics.
Yeah, you and I both have a checkered past. Theater to politics and back to theater again.
Yeah.
Where have you worked other than the center, John? You've been here a lot in the last 20
I've
years.
been here up through the valley.
Yeah.
Was in Boston for a while, New York for a while. Did the Scottish play in Cork in Ireland.
Really?
Yeah.
Who were you in that?
Just about all of them.
Really?
Yeah, and that was killing everybody.
Cool.
And that's pretty much it.
Did you study theater?
Yeah.
Where did you go to school?
Bard.
You went to Bard? Wow. How cool is that?
Went in as an English major and then switched to drama.
Really? And then you went to New York?
Yeah, I was in New York for a while. I was in Massachusetts and Boston and environs for a long, long time.
Uh-huh.
And then a friend of mine had an equity theater in town here in Poughkeepsie, so I came back and worked there for a while. And then just moved up and down throughout the Hudson Valley.
Yeah, so John has worked in New York in the Real Theater. So have I, so have you. And now here we are. But you're pretty much here.
Yeah.
You don't
Yeah.
go anywhere else.
Well, occasionally. I mean, I've worked across the river at PAW occasionally. But yeah, I'm mostly here.
So we met in 1994
Yeah, about
or
that.
5.
Yeah.
We were doing You Can't Take It With You at the Morton Library. And then we started directing each other in various things. And now, Michael, are you an officer in RTS?
Yeah.
Well,
No, no longer with RTS.
But with us,
Yeah.
he's the vice president of the Centers Board.
Right.
You've been on our board for quite a while.
Yeah, like 6 or 7 years.
6 or 7 years. So, how long did you do the New York thing?
For about 13 years.
Wow! Yeah, I was there for 14.
Right.
What made you leave?
Well, I woke up one day.
That's how it happens.
That's how all the stories
That's how it happens.
It's true.
Yeah.
And I had a choice, I could either continue acting or I could eat. And I said, I think the eating thing's a little more important, and decided that's where I was going to go.
I had a dog who was with me through all my poverty. and then my dog passed away. And then I got a girlfriend who insisted that I take her out and have health care. And
She didn't handle the poverty as well as the dog did.
no, she wanted a real relationship. She wanted, like the relationships I had with actors, actresses, well, they were all poor too, and it didn't matter. She was not of the same mindset. She wanted like a real boy-girl relationship where I actually paid my share of the rent and stuff like that, you know.
Unheard of.
Yeah, unheard of. So that's what drove me out. And then I went to politics, a really stable career.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so King Lear opens on April 20 and it plays through April 29, 8 p.m. Friday and Saturday, 3 p.m. Sunday. Tickets are also $23. You know what to do. Call us, 845-876-3080. We're standing by Tuesday through Saturday, 1 to 5. Always online, 24 hours a day. CenterForPerformingArts.org. Before we leave, I would like to just discuss the idea of a community theater, which we are, and we have a reputation of being a kind of a musical comedy factory or musical factory, and we do a lot of musical theater. But if you add up all the straight work, it actually outnumbers the musical work. But we've devoted 5 to 7 weeks out of every year to William Shakespeare. What are your thoughts about that? I find it extraordinary.
I love it. I love it. We've talked about this before.
Yeah.
And I mean, just putting him out there and the fact that it's not Shakespeare, we're trying to make it accessible to everybody, I think is really great. And a lot of the productions we've done, I think are very imaginative. I mean, the Taming of the Shrew that we did years ago was modern dress, and, you know, we were trying to...
Michael directed that, by the way.
we were trying to make that accessible to the audience and understanding that it really wasn't about, you know, a man taming a woman. It was about relationships and love and all those types of things.
And you had the Christopher Sly prologue.
Yes,
Yeah, which
yes.
is very few people do.
Right.
I think too that, you notice it every time you're in it. For me, the fascinating thing and the important thing, and thank God you do it here at the center, and more people have to come see it, and this is why. Plays are not meant to be read.
Right.
They are meant to be performed, and they are so different on their feet than they are on the page. And unfortunately, the way most people are exposed to theater is in the 4-week cycle that they get it in whatever class they took
Yeah.
in college or God forbid high school. It can't be digested that way. It's not, you know, how many times do you see a line on a page as an actor? You don't even know why it's there, why it's meaningful, and then suddenly you're together and you go, that's what it is. And you get to create with it and change it, and people should see it that way. It's a
Yes.
completely different experience,
Yeah.
and I wish more people would come
Shakespeare
to
has gotten a bad rap in America, and I find it really kind of schizophrenic. Alexis de Tocqueville, when he was touring the States in the 19th century, wrote back, he said, you can go to any mean cabin or tent on the frontier, and you're always going to find 3 pieces of literature. You're going to find a King James Bible, you're going to find a Pilgrim's Progress, and you're going to find the complete works of William Shakespeare. William Shakespeare was the most popular playwright in America up until the time we revamped our educational system and we started teaching it as literature. But some of the great names, well, John Wilkes Booth, and his brother Edwin, and his father, and his father's brothers.
We still have a theater named after him down there.
Yeah, and they made their names and their reputations touring mining camps and cattle towns performing the works of Shakespeare. And the people came in droves to see it. Shakespeare was incredibly popular. And since we started teaching it as literature, that it's kind of dropped off the map, and that's a shame.
I think he was able to address almost every human condition and
Yeah.
every human conflict or relationship issue or whatever. His plays were very focused on the human condition. And that's, I think, what appeals across the board. And I'm so grateful that you do as much as you do here. And because really the only other place you think of off the top of your head is Boscobel, the Hudson Valley Shakespeare
Right.
Festival, which is wonderful.
It's a great place.
But it's way far south
Yeah.
of here.
And it's only during the summer.
And it's only during the summer.
And it's in a tent.
Right.
And it's not on a globe stage.
Correct.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I'm glad you said that about Shakespeare because, you know, to me there are 5 great playwrights. I won't name them, but he's one of them. And the cool thing about the 5 greats is that they don't judge, that their characters stand.
Yes.
And they don't judge. The playwright doesn't judge them. He allows the audience to judge them, but he does not judge them. And the universality of Shakespeare is such that we have been able to do our plays. We did our Macbeth as though it were a post-apocalyptic play, and it certainly works. We did our Julius Caesar as though it were organized crime.
Right.
We did it in Italian restaurants with breadsticks and checkered tablecloths.
Yeah.
We did Twelfth Night. We did A Midsummer Night's Dream as though it were a high society champagne and caviar play, and we started it out in a gorgeous nightclub with a piano and totally underscored, and the mechanicals were the waiters in the play, and Oberon, Titania, and Puck were the disenfranchised grapes of wrath kind of people, and certainly that fit the time. We did Henry VIII in period, right? We did Tempest as though it were the New World, and it was the conquistadors running against the Native Americans.
Right.
And we played Caliban not as a monster, but as a dethroned tribal chief.
Right, because underneath all these masks is, you know, is the observation of human truth.
It's all human.
And human truth is human truth. I don't care, you know, what mask you're going to wear, what time you're going to put it in. It's the same basic thing.
And we've all got a couple of turns in our life where we could see ourselves ending up as almost any character in the play. There are some times, I think, obviously, where you feel like, no, that could never be me. It might be true, might not. But most of the time, we've all got these seminal moments where life, you know, teaches you, and it's not, and I think what's great about it too is in drama, more than the musicals, which I've had the good fortune to be in, and there's nothing like them, they're magnificent. But by definition, they have to be, the sheer size of the undertaking means that they have to be tightly choreographed.
Right.
It has to essentially look the same every night, or things fall over, right? In the drama, it's never the same every night, even in your own company, in your own show, much less for the audience, because it is really people talking to each other.
Well, the straight play allows you to really explore the acting moment and the charm of doing a drama or a serious comedy is that the bulk of the work is not in the set or the costumes or the choreography. You're absolutely correct. Where it lies is what he says to me on this particular night, how I hear it, how I answer it back, what it does to him, and then what we do back and forth to each other. So your moments can be quite electric. They could also be dull as dishwater on
Yes,
some
they
nights
can.
too, which is also part of the charm. I mean, the great thing about the theater is that it's like baseball. No 2 games are ever the same.
That's right.
They're never alike. No theatrical experience, no play. You can do a play 1,000 times, and it's different every time you've done it. Any closing thoughts? We're kind of wrapping up here. We at the end. Yeah, she's giving me the blah, blah, blah. All right, so please, ladies and gentlemen, the first play in our 12th annual Sam Script Shakespeare Festival is The Lion in Winter. And which Goldman is this, William? James, William's brother, right?
Yes.
James Goldman. Opens on April the 6th, runs through the 15th, and we play on Friday and Saturdays at 8 p.m. and Sundays at 3 p.m. Tickets are $23, and then the second play in the festival is Lear. We're just calling it Lear, aren't we? And it's April 20 through 29, 8 p.m. Friday and Saturday, 3 p.m. Sunday. Tickets also $23. Our festival, by the way, this year extends to May the 13th, but we'll have those folks on next month, and that's going to be the importance of being earnest. And a cool thing about Lion in Winter, Lear, and Ernest, and I'm glad you talked about the idea of getting a play on its feet as opposed to reading it. If you've never done anything on our globe, you're going to experience that your audience at night, we'll call it a full house at 60 people. But you're going to do field trips for high school students in which you will be sold out. So a lot of our traffic is geared toward bringing in middle schools and high schools and exposing them to the works on their feet at a very low ticket price. $8, I think, is what we charge, cheaper than a movie. So I'm proud of that. I mean,
Yeah, that's
if we did
fantastic.
nothing else, that
No,
would
you're
be the
right.
thing to do. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, you know how to order a ticket. 845-876-3080. Wednesday through Saturday, I might have given you a wrong day before. It's Wednesday through Saturday, 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. You call us. Always online, centerforperformingarts.org. Any closing thoughts, Tyler?
I didn't like Shakespeare until I saw the Kenneth Branagh version of Hamlet. So go see it. It'll be a lot
All
better.
four
if
and
you
a
see
half
it.
hours of it.
All 4.5
Every
hours.
word of the script.
And it was great.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah.
Also, the way he chose to set it in the Napoleonic
Oh, yeah.
era, I thought was really cool.
Yeah.
John?
I've always thought that the only thing that human beings have ever created that they can take utter pride in is the arts. And when you do it right on Shakespeare, when you do it right on stage, it's a craft and it's a sullen art.
Yeah.
And I'm for the arts, and God bless you for putting them out there.
Cool. Thank you so much. Kit, anything?
I'm glad that Michael is staging this the way he is, with very spare set, and it's all about, as you've said, what's going on between the people. It's not about the trappings or the costumes or anything really, just what's going on between this highly dysfunctional family.
Cool. Joe?
I once heard it said that everything is about sex, except sex, which is about power.
Huh.
And I think you'll see that on its feet in Lion in Winter. It's a love story that centers around sex and power.
Super. Michael?
Go to center, see what we're about. I mean, this is a great season. Lear, Lion in Winter, importance of being earnest, love them all.
Great
Come see
plays.
them.
All right, that's our show for this month, and we will see you next month. Bye.
No business like show business, like no business I know. Everything about it is appealing, everything the traffic will allow. Nowhere could you get that happy feeling when you are still